Okay, so we just wrapped up our podcast, but before you tune in, because it's going to be so good, I've been saying her name wrong the whole time. I'm so sorry. And she's never corrected me. So it's Kirsten.
No, that's what you said.
Kirsten. It's Kirsten.
And these ladies are friends.
It's okay. Oh my gosh. But tell them why they have to tune into the episode.
Well, you have to tune in because I think you want to make 2025 your best year ever. We want to help you succeed.
And then Anthony's holding the camera, so he's going to say something too.
I'm going to say that I thought it was funny listening to Danielle say Kirsten 422 times during the podcast. But tune in. It's going to be fun. We're good, but not good at what we do. So, anyways, have fun with us.
This week on the Authentic Media Podcast.
If you don't have time, show me your calendar. Like, but I don't have one. That's why you don't have time. And then they say, well, I don't have any money. I'll say, show me your budget. And they say, I don't have one. I said, that's why you don't have money. The inflation. No, you spent $20 on a martini. It's not inflation. It's you can't control yourself.
You have to figure out who you are. You have to find who you are. It sounds so cliche, but it is so true.
Success is a tangible thing. I want to have that kind of car. I want to have that type of jewelry. I want to go on that type of trip. But why? Why do you want that? Is it because that's something that brings you joy? Or is that something you feel like you have to do that because that will get you there? And I feel like that's a little inauthentic.
What does it take to be successful in 2025? Well, think about having an ultimate checklist. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about whether you are an entrepreneur, creator, business owner. What does it take for you to create financial freedom? What does it take for you to create a personal brand from scratch? And then also, what strategies that you need to have in place to make sure that your 2025 looks different from last year. So Kirsten Flory and Anthony Blanco, my two favorite people in the world,
All right.
are here today.
So sweet.
Oh my God. We are finally here, friends.
I know.
We're here.
Finally.
Up and running.
Up and running.
I was just telling Evie yesterday, she's like, okay, so how did you meet Kirsten? And how did you end up finding out that they knew? I'm like, I don't know. Kirsten, I met at a coffee shop and then we were talking and then I brought up personal branding Danielle or something. And she's like, oh, I just did a podcast with Danielle. And
The universe speaks.
I shot you a selfie,
Yes.
of us two. And you're like, oh my gosh. And then you were like, we should totally do something
All
together.
together.
Yeah.
And so we have some really exciting things in the works coming forward. But first of all, I was just thinking the other day, I said, man, people are going to be like, dang, Anthony and Danielle are definitely cool because you're in all of my back to back.
No, I think what you actually said was people are going to get tired of hearing and seeing you. I think those were your actual words.
But it's really cool, because after you listen to all the things that he says, it's powerful, right? And so I always tell people that Anthony's the type of person, be careful what dreams you share because he's going to push you to your limit. And if you're going to leave the conversation oh my God, my brain hurts, I got to go try all these ideas.
Is that why I have people come up to me now not talking?
So if I share it, if I say it out loud, it's going to happen.
How are you doing?
He's going to make me do it.
Yeah.
Isn't that an awful thing?
Okay, so let's set the stage for everyone who may not know. Okay, we like to just always kind of give people just a little refresh of who we are, where we are today. Every year is different. Every month is different. So let's start with you, Kirsten.
All right. I'm Kirsten Flory. I'm the president and CEO of Foundations Commercial Real Estate. I'm a small business owner. I have a podcast. I like to speak about things that are powerful. But I'd say more importantly, I love talking with people on how to build their wealth, how to build their business, how to be strong in their careers and their motivations. But most importantly, I think money does make the world go round. And I think if we can find ways to maximize our value and be rewarded financially, that's a very important way I like to share with the world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Top of that.
I do stuff.
Who are you?
I'm Anthony. I do stuff with neat people.
Okay, come on.
Okay. So who am I? I am a business-wise, professional-wise. That's what we're talking about, right? Professionally. So I am a I am a speaker. Maybe someday I'll be an author because I always hear people say I'm a speaker, author, coach.
Yes.
But I'm definitely a business coach and speaker. So I love doing that. Not just a speaker, but a trainer. That's one of my favorite things to do. Been doing that for quite a while. And then last year, I had been working with a friend for the last 7 years. And then this last year of 2024, went into a transition of really digging in deep with you as far as like personal branding. And
Doesn't he look good?
yeah, well,
Professionally curated by
Yeah,
Danielle Martin,
yeah.
right?
Love that.
what everybody needs to know is I brought like 14 pairs of pants and shirts, and they're like, "What are you wearing?" I'm like, "I don't know." That's why I brought this stuff for you guys to tell me what I'm wearing. Because otherwise, what I'm going to do as a professional, I'm going to be me, and I'm going to show up in like a hoodie, a ball cap, and
sweatpants, and
Yes,
a
yes,
shirt.
yeah,
Like you just came from working out.
Which is
yes,
fine.
yes.
At least
yes.
you smell good. I mean, I didn't get an odor coming off of
No,
this.
not yet. No, that odor hadn't happened yet. But, so in reality, just like it doesn't matter what I'm doing, whether I'm speaking, coaching, training, any of that stuff. Really, it's about creating transformation in people's personal and professional lives. And I've had an opportunity over many, many years, which I didn't know this. I was labeled learning disabled. But what I needed to understand was I was learning differently. And so I'd taken a lot of information through video and audio is how I learned. So I just love to take all that information and like share it with people. Yeah. Right. And that's a blessing. So when I get to share those things, like I feel empowered, empowering others. It's so fun, especially watching people's personal and professional transformations. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even from like the first day that we met and then where I'm at today, it's like completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
In a good way. So, I mean, many people know. So, TV host, podcast host. So, I still have my full-time job with Advisors Excel. So, helping financial advisors become great business owners. And then after hours, I'm hanging out with like the most amazing people ever. Doing podcasting, doing things like this, and then also kicking off my business, Authentic Media, which is basically helping creators, entrepreneurs, business owners develop an authentic brand. So I really thought it would be really interesting and significant for us to like have this conversation, especially like at the very top of the year, where we're kind of like helping people really organize their thoughts, their strategies, giving them really key information when it comes to building wealth, having clarity, okay, before you go anywhere, and then kind of laying out a plan for the rest of the year. And I think that there is like this high tension of trying to have everything figured out. And so I thought it would be really significant if we kind of just focus maybe on like the Topeka and Lawrence market. And as we're thinking about the people that we're serving, I think the number one thing that we want people to have on their success checklist is getting crystal clear on that vision.
Absolutely.
Which is why you're here.
Yeah.
Because I love this conversation with you, but kind of take us off on why it's important to, one, just start with clarity.
Yeah. So there is a clarity equation that I usually walk people through. So, and Danielle's like, you say this like clarity leads to confidence, which absolutely, right? Because if we don't have clarity, then we have chaos, right? And I always say that if you don't have clarity, you'll cause chaos, and chaos leads to casualty, right? Casualty of whatever that you think the dream is or whatever the vision is. If it has confidence, though, then all of a sudden you're going to be able to communicate very clearly what you're wanting to do. And so here's the deal, is when you have clarity is going to lead to focus. Because, I mean, if you look through a dirty window or dirty glass or dirty glasses or dirty contacts, right, you can't see very well in front of you, right? But when you have clarity, all of a sudden you can focus. So when any of those things that I just mentioned, when they're clear, right, you can clearly focus on what's in front of you and go after it, right? So clarity leads to focus. What ends up happening is when you have that focus, you get so energized because you don't just talk about it, but you see it, you feel it. It's almost like you can step into it every single day. Your feet get out of the bed and you're walking into your future, and that's the energy that it creates. So it's clarity leads to focus leads to energy. And when you have those three things lined up, then you're going to be able to maximize the results both personally and professionally. Right. But what I see people do is they don't get absolutely clear. That's why people quit stuff. Right. They quit new businesses, they quit goals, they quit their New Year's resolutions because they're not absolutely 100%. Clear on what they want and their why. And you've heard people say like your why has got to make you cry type thing. Like seriously, you have to be so emotionally invested in that reality that it's no longer something that it would be nice that it would happen. You're acting as if it does happen. Right. So you've got to be aligned. And it could be everything from if you're wanting a raise at work, if you're wanting to increase your business, if you want to start a business, if you want to lose weight, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think when I think about the people, I'm sure you've come across and the people that I've come across when it comes to even like launching a business this year, where they're like, oh my gosh, I love all the things that you're doing. Like, how do I do that? And so I always ask people, like, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? And I know it's like, it seems like in a large, enormous question, but it's like, you kind of have to start with like the end in mind and keep in mind.
Hands down. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how do I get there? But right now, I think people see like social media, they're attracted to like the microwave success and wanting to get started. But I know you've always like kind of taught me, like, you kind of have to think with an end goal. And then once you know where you're trying to go, then right now, today, what can I do to like set myself up
That's right.
to get there?
That's right. Desired outcome. I mean, you and I talked about that. What is your desired outcome?
Yeah.
What is your desired outcome? And when you put that target in place, now you can devise a road to get there. And here's the fun thing that I say a lot with people is, in your pursuit of what you're trying to go to, you have to be like a rock in your determination, and you have to be like a river in flow, right? So it's a river, you're going to go through, you're going to go around, you're going to go over, you're going to go under any obstacle that gets in your path until you get to your destination, right? And so that's one of the things that you have to have such clarity and such emotion that you have to be like a river and flow around any obstacles.
Kirsten, kind of take us through your thought process when you're setting yourself up for a new year, right? What do you do? Let's give like some tactical advice here.
I'm glad you talked about the end goal, because I think that has brought me a lot of success over the years, because I feel like the middle's the fun part.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's the journey, and realizing that nothing's ever going to be perfect. I know we were talking offline before we started recording today about, I think you use 65%. 65% is good enough. And I think I've used 70%.
Yeah.
Perfection gets in the way of progress every single day. But if you don't call your shot, you're never going to make it.
That's right.
Ever. And I think that the more and more you're willing to call your shot, even if it's little shots, you're taking those steps forward, and you're going to fall on your face, and you're going to fail, and you're going to stumble, and you're going to laugh at yourself, hopefully. But then you're going to do it over and over again, and you're going to build that muscle of tenacity and of the get up and go, and then those steps will be easier. And I think we've all talked about how the more difficult problems you're willing to go after and solve, the bigger problems you can take on and the more success you're going to have.
Yeah.
And so that's the process I always go through. We talk about stretch goals. I'm sure you all do.
Yeah.
What is that financial goal going to be? Your stretch goal? What is that, personal goal you're going to be? What's that stretch goal look like? And I think you'll surprise yourself, because if you call it, the likelihood of achieving it is exponential.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it goes up quite a bit. That's what people have a fear of. And I'll tell you, they have a fear because they are made fun of.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you are going to share your dreams and goals with somebody, like, do it with your power pack, right? Do it with the associations that believe with you and dream with you. I mean, that's why us three are sitting here right now, right? Because we're like, dude, what if? Oh my gosh, right?
We had a conversation, in October? I can't remember, but started in 2024. It's January. We're like, we're doing this thing.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 1, get crystal clear on that vision. Number 2, building a magnetic brand. Before I answer that question, you guys tell me, what does it even look like building a magnetic brand?
Am
that's
I
a
going to get in
loaded
trouble if I
question.
try to answer it?
No right answer to like building a brand, especially like nowadays, but I think it's important. But I'm curious, like, from the conversations we've had,
Because we all three have very, very different brands.
Yeah.
Very different brands.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, I know for me, showing up where I don't have to think about how I'm going to be portrayed, just show up as me.
Yeah.
Come on, Fred.
Yeah. So like, if I'm trying to be something, then I have to show up and remember to be that thing, which I would guess would add to me having to think about it. Yeah. So I'm not really running at 100% capacity and communicating, because is this what people want to hear? Is this what people want to think? What are they going to think about me? And so therefore I'm running at maybe 50 or 60% of my communication or my present power to be able to communicate, rather than just living into who God created me to be and living on purpose for his purpose.
It sounds like you have to know who you are.
You got to know who you are.
That's a tough one sometimes.
It is.
And I think it's very easy to go into a situation thinking, especially with social media, thinking about, what do other people want me to be? Because that's not your true self. If you're creating yourself and you're putting yourself out there, what you think other people want you to be, then that's not living authentically.
Right.
But if you say, I'm going to be unapologetically me. And I'm going to go into this meeting, this conference, this whatever, this association, and I'm going to be me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be professional and I'm going to be respectful, of course. But I'm going to speak my mind. I'm going to be direct. And I think, and for whatever reason, people don't like to be direct anymore. They don't like to say what they think and what they mean because they're afraid other people might not respond to that in a favorable way. But what I found out over time is that the more you're willing to speak your mind, throw out those unique ideas. What about this? Ask the dumb question.
That's right.
More than likely, there's people in the room that are afraid to ask that question. And you just leveled yourself up because you had the guts to be out there and ask it. And that creates your own brand, a very powerful brand.
Yeah.
That's so
100%. Just like roll.
Yeah, I got to think about like just all the things I've gone through in the last year, and I just keep thinking to myself, thank God I went through it, because just what I thought like showing up looks like authentically is so different than like what it is now. And so I get really excited talking about this, which is why I'm like constantly preaching. You have to figure out who you are. You have to find who you are. It sounds so cliche and people are like, yeah, I've heard that before, but it is so true, because you can show up to places just being who you are, not having to figure out like, do I say this? Do I want to say this? Is this going to be more attractive if I say this instead? And so one of the things that I came across this week, my virtual mentor is really who I call him, Chris Doe. He is like the king of personal branding. And so I had to write this quote down because I thought it was very unique that he said, personal branding is a process of discovering who you are and getting in touch with that, and healing from the trauma that you don't even understand that you have. Right?
Yeah.
Healing from the trauma that you don't understand or think that you have.
You just gave me goosebumps saying that because I didn't think about that. Yeah.
I was like, so many of us think that personal branding is a logo. It is a symbol. It is, how you are.
It's a filter.
It's a filter. And it's like, what? No, like personal branding is literally like who you are at your core, which we've talked about multiple times on this podcast, is that you have to figure out who you are at your core. But when he said like healing from the trauma, it's because like when you're showing up in places and you're putting on the representative mask or the filter, or you're putting on the persona that you think people want you to be instead of just being who you are, honey, it like opened my eyes. It's like, wow, it's much deeper than that.
Yeah.
It is. And you have to be prepared for not everyone's going to love you.
That's good.
I think we expect like, well, if I'm myself, this is me. I mean, I'm a nice person. Everyone's going to love me.
Yeah.
Hate to break it to you. There's a lot of people that aren't going to love you.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because those aren't the people you want anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I were to think about like how to essentially really start, if you don't know where to start building a magnetic brand, because I think majority of the people that we probably interact with like are a variety of like, entrepreneurs, business owners, people who are still, working corporate jobs. But I think even people I'm trying to really even gravitate to is that the people that I'm around constantly who are working like 9 to 5 jobs, who think that like, I just have to show up and do the work and do the job. And while you are there to do that, I really think that even how you're coming to work, how you represent yourself, how you show up dressing professionally, right, is communicating a message. It's letting your manager, your supervisor know that I care to be here. And then coming with a great attitude, coming with a positive attitude. If you come to work with a constant, like, I don't want to be here negative mindset, I'm just here to make the day go by faster, whatever I need to do to get out of here. It's like, I really think you are communicating even a message to the universe that like you're going to continue staying where you are because you are pouring out a negative energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. The Damon John wrote a book. He wrote several books. So for those of you who don't know, like Damon John is, what is it? FUBU, like he created FUBU brand. And he has a book called Power Broker. And in Power Broker, he talks about, it's not like almost what you think. Like if I hear that, I'm thinking of some sophisticated person walking into a room and they're like powerful. And what he's saying is more or less, he talks about your personal brand in that book, how you show up on social media, how you show up in influence with conversations with other people. your reputation will start to precede you.
Right.
And he said, so your personal brand and how you show up and how you communicate will far outweigh any way that you're trying to like manipulate people or anything like that, because of the confidence and authenticity you walk into a room.
Before we go down that funnel, because I have something for that.
Okay.
Manipulating people. Okay, before I even get there, I wanted to say, when someone came up to me the other day and told me, wow, you are exactly who you are in person than you are online. I thought that was like the most biggest compliment.
It is a big compliment.
Did you get the heart?
Yeah.
The heart emoji?
I was like, thank you. But that meant a lot, because like, if that doesn't show you that you are truly like communicating and being true to who you are on and offline, then like that is exactly building a magnetic brand. But if you are somebody different and you're showing up to places just with a nasty attitude and you're just different, or you don't even look the same,
Right.
it's like, okay, we have to have this conversation about how do we align, what you look like on social media versus what you look like offline. And I think some people are like, I don't care about social media, but you have to, because we are in that time where it's your resume. People are going to your social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. They're going to all of your places online to see, do you match up to who you say that you are?
Absolutely. Is it a congruent message?
And it provides a level of expertise that you can't sometimes generate another way. I mean, you could build a resume. I mean, back in the day, it was a resume builder, right? Yeah. Anymore, they want to say, how are you presenting yourself in an online medium, and what does that mean? What's your message? What's your connection? And you're right. And test it when you're on a Saturday morning when you just woke up and maybe you didn't have your makeup put on. No offense to the guys, but you roll into the grocery store. Are you the same person in that environment as you are, with all your bells and whistles on? I mean, are you the same person? Are you going to have the same conversation?
Yeah.
I hope so.
I had somebody on, this is years and years and years ago. There was a person that, I don't even know if I'm friends with on Facebook anymore. And this person was constantly posting like negative things on Facebook, like all the time, like like negative Nancy and everybody's problem and you're a problem and all this stuff. And then I saw her make this one post that said, how do you all seem to find like all the good jobs? Nobody seems to want to hire me. And I'm like,
I wonder why.
And like, I didn't have the heart to send her like a direct message, be like, you want to go audit your own Facebook? I wouldn't hire you. I don't want to be friends with you anymore. Unfriend.
Right. But you make a good point. If you think about branding, you think you have to challenge yourself and think about who you are, but who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Do you want to be negative Nelly all the time and pick apart things, or do you want to be solution focused and positive? I know my husband gives me a hard time sometimes because he's like, oh, the glass is always half full for you. I said, but why not?
Yeah.
Why can't it be?
Yeah.
Always flip the script and look at those positive attributes and look at who I want to be out in the world. Yeah. Do I want to be encouraging, empowering, and that goes into your personal brand, and that goes into, how you can be an influencer.
Yeah.
How can I bring people positivity and growth and strength?
Yeah. And speaking of influence, like John Maxwell says that leadership is influence. And so it's a term that can be synonymous. Right. So you can be a leader for bad things. So how are you being a leader?
Yeah.
Yeah. So people always just attribute positive things to leadership. But Hitler was a leader.
It's true.
Things didn't go well there. Right? So not saying that you being negative on Facebook is any way attributed to that, but I'm just taking an extreme measure point to make a point.
Most definitely.
Okay, so I wanted to circle back to what you were mentioning earlier about manipulating people, right? And like kind of when people are presenting themselves, whether you're a speaker or you're presenting yourself online, I really had this thought earlier about, I think that people are getting confused, especially when it comes to like marketing yourself, right? With like marketing your lifestyle, right? So I kind of came up with like these two different styles of marketing. I think there's a difference between lifestyle marketing and then generosity marketing, right? And so I think I would define lifestyle marketing as if you were trying to portray a certain lifestyle and you want people to know, like, okay, this is what you need to do to get what I have today, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like manipulating people in a way where it's like, if you do what I just did, then look, you'll get to six figures, right? But it's like everyone's story is different versus like generosity marketing. Anthony, I think you kind of like always emphasize that you have to be so obsessed with your client's problem that it becomes your own problem to where you care enough. And so I would define generosity marketing where you are offering so much value, education for free that you're not expecting anything in return. So it's like, how would you guys see the difference between lifestyle marketing versus generosity marketing?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. I get asked that a lot. And I think, starting a business, I mean, you two have businesses too. I get a lot of people ask me, how did you do this? How did you do that? And I would say that's tactics.
Yeah.
And it's great to say, I want what you have. I mean, absolutely. I see people, I'm like, I would love to have that. What I encourage people though, is to flip the script. I'm like, why do you want to have what I have? What about what I have is interesting to you?
Yeah.
And, I think it's easy when you mention lifestyle, you want to emulate somebody's lifestyle because I think sometimes we look at success, it's a tangible thing. I want to have that kind of car. I want to have that type of jewelry. I want to carry that kind of purse. I want to go on that type of trip. Okay. But why?
Yeah.
Why do you want that? Is it because that's something that brings you joy? Or is that something you feel like you have to do that because that will get you there? And I feel like that's a little inauthentic.
Yeah.
So if we think about the generosity side of marketing, I know for myself as a business owner, as I've worked with other business owners, whether they're startup entrepreneurs that they've been in business for a while, where I see the biggest amount of success for them and me is if we come together, when we bring our strengths together. I'm like, I am bringing you some resources and tools and I'm going to push you. And I'm going to have you dissect your business. And I want you to tell me all the areas, what you do well, what you're struggling with. And then we're going to bring in resources to build you up. Because I always tell my clients, and in a real estate format, I never want to put you in a real estate acquisition where you might have the money now, but that's not sustainable. Because that doesn't make you successful. It doesn't make me successful. So we're gonna baseline it. We're gonna figure out, what are you bringing to the table? What are you an expert at? What do you do really, really well? Because what you do well is probably not what I do well. I mean, if you have a coffee shop and you roast the most amazing coffee brew, I can't do that, but I'm gonna drink your coffee.
Right.
So you do that well. Let's capitalize on that. And I'm gonna bring to the table what I do well. So that way we are raising each other up. And I love the quote, a rising tide lifts all boats. And I see that. And that's, in my opinion, the generosity side of marketing, because if we're building communities, and we are here in the Midwest and we're here in Kansas, but if we are truly we're building communities, we're building the people in our communities rise.
So good.
Yeah, I a couple things. So Jim Rohn says, Zig Ziglar says, if you help enough people get what they want, then you get what you want.
Yeah.
And then Jim Rohn says, he says that if you raise the value in the marketplace will pay you your value. And so if people say, well, I want to make more money at work, or I want to increase my business, my question always back to them is, what value are you adding to the marketplace? Right. And so when we produce content for the marketplace, like we're doing YouTubes and all these things, these podcasts, it's providing content and a way of thinking to build into people to help them have a transformational change in the way that they think about how they think. And by adding that value without expecting a return, it will, people can believe whatever they want to believe, but it will create, like the law of abundance is that if we're out there producing and creating and loving and lifting others up with the stuff with our skill set that you had mentioned, with our gifts, and we do this, the tide will rise.
It'll come back to you.
And it'll come back to us. It may not come back to us from Joe Bob from down the street who we're serving and helping through something, but it may come from over here, because I believe that our positive intention to make an impact and change will be rewarded somehow.
Right.
Absolutely. And that's the faith that I have in it.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to what I was mentioning earlier, where it's like, if you're showing up with this nasty attitude, and if you're distributing out just negative thinking, negative energy, then you can't expect anything good to happen to you, right? Law of attraction. So what you put in is what you get out. So yeah, just thinking about just making sure that you are putting out the energy that you want to receive, essentially.
Your brand deserves more than just a selfie. It deserves a vision captured perfectly. Hi, I'm Danielle J. Martin, and I'm here to help you create a visual identity that creates a lasting impression. So whether you're launching a business or you're enhancing your presence or you're rebranding, your photos are your first impression. So our brand photo shoots aren't just for you to take pretty pictures, but they're for you to tell your story, build trust, and connect with your audience in a whole different way. So if you're ready to elevate your brand that creates a lasting impression, go ahead and click that link down below.
Okay, as we continue going down our list here, we would say number 3 is making sure you're figuring out how to maximize your time and master time and energy, which I love this topic because I think many of us are getting really like loosely distracted with focusing on the wrong thing at the wrong time. And so I say this because I think there was a season even for myself where I was creating or producing in a way where it was not maybe the right thing to focus on, the right thing to maximize my time, whether that's like, constantly scrolling on social media, knowing that like, okay, I have, a podcast to prepare for, or knowing you have something to study for the next day, and you're spending your time watching TV, right? And so some people may say, well, I want to, I need to relax. I need some self-care time, which is like, okay, yeah.
Well, what's funny is we've gone down that pipeline like too much. Like, I need a self-care. I'm like, you haven't done anything.
Right. Yeah.
I went to work and it was hard. No, you don't like your job. That's why it was hard.
Yeah.
That's different than actually something being hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think when you recognize that, I don't think you have found the passion yet, because when you find the passion, you have enough energy to care for.
That's right.
And it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
And I would say I've been in the same career field for going on 12 years now, but I don't think I realized how much I love what I do until I launched my own business, because it gave me what I was after. It gave me control. It gave me autonomy. It gave me the power to really be my authentic self. And now, it's funny how mentally, if you're, in your down moments outside of your 9 to 5, right? You're at home, you're thinking, okay, this is my relaxation time. But what I find myself now is that I'm in a space where I can't wait to create those new ideas and create to make those plans and oh yeah, absolutely. And it brings me energy versus depletes me. And so I think maybe that's probably a great thing for our listeners to think about too. If you are in an environment that you feel depleted every day, you're not in the right environment. We need to be in spaces that bring us up and get us excited about stuff. And we're walking in the door every day and you're like, I can't wait to create this. I can't wait to, connect with this person or bring ideas and solutions. And that brings you power.
Yeah. And what's funny is, and I know we're on we're on time, but what
Just say it.
what you just said.
Trying to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, no, just say it.
Well,
This is the topic.
It just kills me because, when we look at the overall statistics of the amount of people that are on like anxiety meds and depression meds, and then I did some studying a couple of weeks ago, and the majority of people like that have common problems are jobs. They don't like their jobs. They don't like a lot of different things. They lack of money causes anxiety and depression.
Sure.
So when we look at all those different things, and so when people are drained or they need self-care, it's because they're doing things they don't like with people they don't like. Right. And it's leading to all these other things. And I'm like, well, then you're not a treat. Move. Right. But what do they say? They'll come back and they'll say, well, but I got to make the paycheck. No, you don't have to make the paycheck. And people may listen to this right now and be like, you're insane. Like, what are you talking about? Well, there was a mantra that Evie and I followed now twice where we said we had to downsize our lifestyle to upsize our impact. And so we had to choose how we truly wanted to make an impact, not just in our kids' lives, but in the world around us. And so we made some very, very hard choices with our time and with our money and with the way that we were perceived by the outside world in order for us to still stay on a very low level of income for a time period in order for us to create such a powerful impact that our income would follow later.
Yeah.
Right.
Sounds like you planted a seed so you can receive the harvest later.
It was, and that's the thing. And so, not to chase that rabbit, but when you mentioned like people going into the jobs and stuff, like it fires me up because so many people feel like they're at these jobs that they have to stay at. I'm like, you don't have to. And as soon as you realize that,
Yes.
then your curiosity can kick in.
Yeah.
But they'll go to jobs. So when, again, going back to the time thing, they'll go into jobs they don't like from 8 to 5, 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, I'm just going to sit and I'm going to from and the average American screen time right now, not including work screens, but including telephone screens, iPad, computer, whatever, streaming, TV, is 7.5 hours.
Yeah.
So people will complain about their current life.
Right.
But when you go back to your time,
Yeah.
what does your time journal say that is your true intention?
Right.
I think you have to pay attention to like your energy, right? So like this may seem like a little conspiracy or just a little weird, but I think Kirsten, you said it earlier, but like when your energy is low or when you feel like you're in an environment where it's like bringing you down, and I think that's when I had to recognize like, okay, this environment is not the environment that is like giving me the passion or the energy that I need to show up fully and competently with like giving all of my ideas, giving all of my passion, and where it doesn't feel like it's just like I'm just here just to be here.
Right.
But more so like I am here because I want to. It's like really just a different mindset. But I think also getting around different people helps you like just like you guys energize me. You know what I mean? Like we just build off of each other.
Yeah.
And so I just think you have to really ask yourself the hardest question that many people keep avoiding. Am I happy here? And if
Yeah.
not, what do I need to do?
And it's scary. It's scary to leave. And I know when I made a big career switch 12 years ago, going from a salaried position to a 100% commission position, I did a lot of thinking, a lot of strategy planning, financial planning, stuff like that. And I remember my husband said, well, let me ask you a question. Do you think you can do it? I'm like, yeah, I can. And I think having that belief in yourself, I think will propel you forward in any environment and allow you to jump farther and faster and do this kind of thing. So getting quiet, I think is something we don't do enough of. And Anthony, you just mentioned, the social media time, we escape to that. We escape into our phones, we escape into that. But I think if you put that away and get quiet, even 10 minutes a day, and I think that probably will help you figure out your why and figure out your intention and your place in the world. And it might not happen the first time or the 15th time, but that quiet time will allow you to really internalize who you are and what you want to be.
I think we have to also address the main question of getting tactical advice here, where a lot of people don't know how to manage their time. And so what advice would you guys give? Kind of share with me some personal things that you guys have done, especially when it comes to Anthony. I know you have so many goals that you try to achieve. So even take me down the path of like when you were training for, what was it, triathlon? And like just your time just looked different. And so I think for anyone who is trying to accomplish a goal or trying to get to a certain milestone, there is ways to maximize your time by just simply having a system.
So I use Google Calendar. And then what I say is that everybody that if you prioritize the things that you want to be intentional with in life, it will show up in your calendar, right? And some people want to use old school paper calendars, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But Google Calendar, I found a high level of success with a lot of people. And so if you're trying to make a difference and a transformation in your life in different areas, personal and professional, then those things, those actions will show up on your calendar. Right. Yeah. So if I went, like, let's say that somebody was working with me in regards to like coaching, and they would say, well, people say this kind of garbage all the time. I don't have enough money, yet I see them posting $20 martinis on social media. So they tell me that garbage. And then they tell me they don't have enough time. Okay. and not to mention the tip.
Those got to be the most amazing martinis ever.
Like, not $20.
No.
Oh, yeah. I've been to places where they're 20 and Topeka, they're 15.
Yeah, they are.
Right. It's still, but then you have to tip.
Right.
So what people will do is they'll tell me these things, and I say, well, show me, if you don't have time, show me your calendar. And like, but I don't have one. That's why you don't have time. And then they say, well, I don't have any money. I'll say, show me your budget. And they say, I don't have one. I said, that's why you don't have money. Well, the inflation. No, you spent $20 on a martini. It's not inflation. It's you can't control yourself because you're not clear. Go back to clarity. You're not really clear on the impact that you're trying to make. Because again, if you're true to yourself and you're clear on the impact you're trying to make, those priorities will show up very strategically on your calendar But in your actions, but what she was saying is like that quiet time sometimes is that planning. And what I even call that is I call it planning to plan.
Yeah.
Like you putting on your calendar to plan. So you're planning to plan.
Yeah.
I was
Right.
there before where I didn't realize how important it was to even block out quiet time.
Yeah.
Or I know like I call it devotional time, but even that that has gone to 30 minutes to an hour
Mhm.
because it's like during that time I am literally thinking about my entire day. I'm thinking about the week, right? So yes, I agree. Like you have to block out, okay, do not bother me during this time.
Mhm.
Like I am planning, I'm thinking, I'm processing, I am getting organized in my mind. So I love that because I do believe that what doesn't get written down doesn't get done. And so you have to literally have it on like my whole entire calendar. Every time someone sees my calendar, they're like, how do you live like this? I'm like, how do you not?
That's right.
Right. Yes.
What? Like,
And at the same time, they're like, man, it would be nice to be you. Like you're making this amazing impact. And you're like, uh-huh.
Right.
Okay, it's kind of crazy because like sometimes you ever like look at people and you're like, it's not that hard.
Because you've made it not that hard.
yeah.
So the two things I think about on this topic of conversation, one is discipline and two is energy.
Okay.
And I think everyone, you can probably tell me exactly right now, what time of day do you have the most energy?
Yeah.
For me, it's the morning time.
Same.
And so I have structured and curated my calendar
Yeah.
to maximize my energy in the morning.
Yeah.
And so I know that's when I work out. That's when I have my reflection time, my creative time. But I think about, okay, then how do I maximize my time during those working out? When do I need to reach out to clients or prospects?
Right.
Is it between the hours of, and I get so disciplined in my activities. That creates the success for me.
That's
and
right.
and it's a simple formula. I mean, really.
Yeah.
But it is the commitment to the discipline, to the calendaring, to the time, to the energy.
Yeah.
Even so much that I go to bed every night between 10 and 10:30,
Yeah.
hands down, even on the weekends.
Mhm.
And I mean, my husband and I were in bed by 10:30 on New Year's Eve. We didn't make it. But
About 9 o'clock nowadays.
yeah, but I would say the discipline of rest, the discipline of sleep plays into my energy level because
Right.
if I'm not getting my 8 hours or whatever I need, I mean, so that means I go to bed at 10 or 10:30, I'm up by 6:30
Right.
and I feel rested and I'm good. I'm in an environment. So I have the full energy to really attack the day and attack what I'm doing on the discipline and the calendar I set forward. So those are the kind of the basics, the modules that move you forward.
Yeah.
I mean, I always say all the time, or I've been saying recently, is that rest is the most productive thing that you can do. But I don't mean like resting and watching TV. I mean more so like you kind of called it earlier, but like your creative reflection time.
Yeah.
That's resting. That's like getting your mind prepared for like what you have set ahead. And so I think for me, even like this last season of resting and being still has like launched me forward to this space of like, wow, like doing less actually leads me to doing more.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
so I think that people kind of overthink it where it's like, oh, resting means I can, watch a whole season on Netflix.
Right.
No,
No.
like a great
No.
ride.
Yeah.
Resting could mean you go for a walk,
Yes.
You know,
Book.
read a book.
Yes.
You know.
Going on walks has definitely been a space for me that has honestly given me so much energy because I didn't realize like my spirit enjoys being outside. Maybe not now in Kansas because it's cold, but especially during the summertime. And so there's also a study too that shares that when we are in a season of like winter time and then there's a time where there's no sunlight, us as humans, our energy naturally goes down.
Sure.
Because the sun is no longer giving us the energy or anything that our like spirit needs to like come alive. And so when I heard that, I'm like, that makes so much sense why people kind of like go into like this like depression mode
Sure.
during the winter time.
They're not getting what they
They're
need.
not
They're not getting the vitamin D.
Yeah, they're not
You
getting
know?
vitamin D.
I think you also hit on something too, and I'm by no means a nutritionist, but I also think about what you're putting into your body makes a huge difference on your energy, on your motivation, on your success. Not to say we all need to be a certain size and look a certain way, but I think if we're not fueling our bodies in a way that brings our bodies energy in a good way, we're not doing ourselves a service. Just same with like, I have one of my doctors, she calls ourselves, we live in meat suits, right?
Yeah.
So we are mostly muscle and skin and water, right?
Right.
And if we're not treating that as such, especially as we age, we are not giving our bodies, our physical bodies, the chance to be productive.
So as we're continuing the conversation about what this success checklist looks like, I think another important thing, whether you're in corporate or whether you are building a business and you're an entrepreneur, a creator, I would say networking is very important personally and professionally.
Absolutely.
It will do wonders for you. And I think this is a really significant topic because one, I don't think many people are talking about this. A lot of people don't know how to network, or they don't know how to really like kind of hold a conversation with someone who they think is not important. And so my girlfriend got on me the other day about this because she was like, aren't you sharing these like, personal branding packages? I'm like, yeah. And so she's like, okay, well, who are they for? And I said, well, they're essentially for, just business owners and people that, have a portfolio of a brand that may need some different type of professional photos. And so she even challenged my thought because I came across this person when we were out, and this person was trying to hold a conversation with me, and I kind of was just disregarding them a little bit because I didn't know who they were, but they did come off as important a little bit. So I'm putting myself out there that don't do this. And so I went to their profile on social media, and this guy,
It's like a bazillionaire.
literally, and I was like,
And he probably needs your services, Danielle.
and he had this whole like fitness brand. And I said, wow. And she was like, yeah, lesson learned. Like, you don't know who people are.
No.
So let's talk about why professional networking is important.
So the first thing is your network determines your net worth,
100%.
right? And so then you also talk like the power of association. And so people are like always like, the people that we would read in books, the people that we follow.
Yeah.
The power of association is that your net worth and where you are in 5 years, one of the determining factors, there's a couple of them, but one of the determining factors is the people that you associate with, which is your networking. And so when you're networking with people, it is understanding that you treat everybody as a level 10. So John Maxwell says you treat everybody as if they have a level 10 on their forehead, right? Because we don't know. And even if that guy wasn't this thing that you didn't know he was, but he may know somebody. He may be a connector, right? So we don't know where people's influence is, and it doesn't mean they're less important as a person. They may be less important as a connector, but they're still a human that needs love and looking for eyeballs and good questions and conversations.
Right.
I think it just goes back to like when you are essentially networking, I would say the best advice is like you take yourself out of it and you get to know the other person that you're talking to. And so I think someone told me a long time ago that the best way to network and have a conversation with someone is ask them as many questions about them because people love talking about themselves.
They sure do. Yeah.
So it's interesting because I've been trying to like switch my mindset because usually it's like the other way around where people are like, I want to get to know what you're doing. And I'm like, but who are you? What do you do?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that tip of advice is very important. Just like ask many questions. Like if they're sharing about, their family and their business, like find like a little hole in there and go even deeper. Why do you like that about, your family or your business? And I think it will just open them up a little bit.
I also think when we think about networking and networking to build your sphere of influence, to build your network, I think we traditionally want to flock to people that look like they're successful. And think about go into a cocktail hour, right? And you see a room of people, and you're like, oh, I want to go talk to that person because they're the shiniest, sparkliest person in the room. They might not be the most successful person in the room. And I think I use a lot of we live in the Midwest. Midwest people hide their wealth.
All the time.
All the time. And I almost guarantee you, if you walk into any networking event, more than likely the most successful person financially in the room probably has overalls on. And, and they might look a little blue collar, and they're probably sitting in the corner, hugging their drink and maybe not talking to anybody. That's the person you need to go talk
And eating the free food.
Yeah. And I know in my business all the time, people's like, oh, you're in real estate. And I'm like, I'm in commercial real estate and I get to work with these shiny office buildings. Well, not necessarily. Sometimes the most profitable businesses are grungy old warehouse spaces, but they've figured out a way to manufacture a product, and they dial down on their logistics, and they're multimillionaires or billionaires.
Right.
And they built this company from the ground up, and they're hard workers. Those are the people you need to be talking to.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a lesson that was taught to me a long time ago in sales. So a guy that I used to sell medium commercial tires, so like farm tires, ag tires, semi tires, and that kind of stuff. And so, long time ago, called me Tire Man Tony. That's a whole different story. Like we get into that sometime because that's a fun one. And so he said, the guy that was the business manager, his name's Simone. Simone said, don't ever bypass anybody in the shop when you're going to talk to anybody. He goes, here's the reason why. And he just told me a quick story on he would always talk to everybody in the shop, and all the other sales guys would go talk to the business manager. Come to find out, this was like a big multi-million dollar company. And they're like, well, you're going to have, for that large of an order, you're going to have to talk to our owner. And then the guy, he's like, okay, well, when's your owner? And he's like, he's out there. So the guy that he would go talk to that was underneath the truck all the time because he liked to do the work but didn't like to run the business was the business owner of $100 million tire business. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
You just don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Okay, so I know we talked about a lot. Hopefully everyone has their notepads out. But let's land the plane on, let's talk about lessons you've learned in 2024. And then what advice would you give yourself? Just yourself going into 2025 that I know many people can take away. And then we can tell everyone.
She goes first. She gets to go first.
Way to do that.
Okay, talking for myself, and I know a lot of people out there too, and you two might, relate to this. I'm sure you do. I think when I'm in my creative space, I want to do all the things. I think of all the things I got to do, and it's exciting, but it's also overwhelming.
Why are you looking at me? We're listening.
So I would say lesson I learned this last year is that I need to pare down all the commitments I've made. And it might be volunteer board commitments or working on new things. I mean, because I think about what gets me excited is like, oh, I want to do the new thing because I can. And I want to explore this and it gives me energy. Okay, but funneling it down. And really, picking just a few of those things and then going at them hard, 100%, 110% into these 2 to 3 areas, I think will maximize it. I think you think about things in your life, it's like, oh, that's running pretty good. Is it running pretty good or are you blowing it out of the water? And so lessons learned for me going forward, I want to blow just a few items out of the water instead of trying to do 10 different things. And so, but it's also, I have to really think carefully about the time commitments that I've made, because that's an integrity piece for me. If I've committed to something, I want to fulfill that commitment, hands down, because that's who I am. But then I also think about going forward, being honest with myself and with those objectives. I'm like, okay, where do I really want to show up and how I want to be, and where is my maximum value going to be placed?
That's so good. That's powerful. I like that.
I'm done. She just said what I was going to say.
Literally. Even you and I are smiling
Because, we talk about this all the time. Him and I, we jam all the time about just different things and the things that we're passionate about and the people that we follow. Omar El Corey, Christo,
Myron.
Oh my gosh, we love Myron. And just all of these creators. And now Kirsten's a part of this group that we're throwing in all of these YouTube. And she's like, okay, I got to catch up. But it's yeah, we're used to this. It's okay. You don't have to watch it today. But what I love is that, we learn so much from each other. But yes, I agree with you that is something I had to learn last year, which is just pull back a little bit. Just because you can do it doesn't mean that you're called to do it right now. Maybe you'll do it later on. But I guess I can just say my lesson unless you want to go.
You go first.
Do it.
Okay, he's going to land on something so powerful.
Oh, yeah. Thanks a lot. Okay, no, I'll go first. And then Danielle's going to land on something so powerful. It's going to revolutionize the world.
Hey, you never know. Just kidding. I would say the biggest lesson I learned last year is get to know yourself to your core so much so you can maximize on your gift. And I think that it sounds very cliche and generic, but I think finding out who you truly are will lead you to where you're supposed to be. And I think that goes with doing the inner work. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier when Christo said that you have to really get to know the trauma that you don't think that you have, because it will heal so much in you and it will reveal so much in you that you didn't realize, wow, now that part of me is healed and whole, I can think more clearly. I can create on a whole different level. and I can really attract the things that I truly want. And so I think that I learned that doing less like led me to doing more in a whole like different way. And I don't know, it's brought me to this moment.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, I don't know, I can't speak on it fully, but I just think that like God is truly preparing all of us in this space for something that's bigger than we've ever seen before.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Love it.
Yeah.
I am excited too.
Yeah.
Doing it with people you love, it's like a whole different, it's a whole different space, right? Because there's a difference between going to board meetings and being a part of these different organizations and being involved in the community. And I think that's something I learned, which is like, I love doing all the things, but I think when you like pull back and you find like, wow, like there's people that think like this. There's people that want to go to these places. Like I'm not crazy for thinking like I can have this type of lifestyle. Like, thank you. Like, thank you guys.
Yes. Well, thank you. Yeah, it is. It's a refreshing surprise, and I guess I shouldn't be surprised anymore, really, because I think over time, all three of us have curated the people in our lives purposefully, and it's not that I've crossed people out of my list, but you just decide. I mean, your time is precious, and your time is your greatest asset. So, how do you want to spend your time, and who do you want to spend your time with? Is very powerful.
Right. Greatest lessons for me this year is the transforming from really being in a position of implementation. And at the beginning of the year, moving into the economic, so there's the economic value steps like you and I have talked about before. It's like implementation, unification, communication, and imagination is saying that if I am doing anything other than the communication and the vision, then I'm heading in the wrong direction. So everything that's on my calendar, I'm judging it against that. Is this implementation? And some of it is as like I'm doing things for EV&I's business. So other than my coaching and speaking and training business that I can do, only I can do it because I understand technology and things like that.
Right.
But the faster I can get out of that and into the communication and transformation, that thing, setting up systems that allow me to go over here. And that's what I've spent the entire year doing, is setting up this transformational process. So 2025 is going to be amazing because it's taken a year to really set up the systems, processes, and get with the people, right? Creating this collaboration with people that have like minds and like visions to make an impact in the community. So biggest lesson is making sure I'm judging my actions, activities, and people into the looking at that economic value ladder and making sure that majority of my time is spent in imagination and communication.
Gosh. Okay, so I knew this was going to happen where we weren't going to get through all the content.
Yep. That's what happens.
That's why there's going to be a part 2. And so we're excited to announce that the part 2 involves Anthony, Kirsten, and I. We're going to be doing a virtual live event. And we're calling it the Entrepreneur's Edge, right? I'm super excited. I think that's the name, right?
Yep.
Okay. Let me double check. And so this is where we're going to be talking about branding, coaching, and wealth building. So I'm super excited because we're going to get into Kirsten's mind too about real estate and just how to maximize your wealth even right now. We're going to get into Anthony's brain as he's going through different types of clarity, vision, and time management. We're going to get into my brain, going into personal branding. So we're going to dive a little bit more deeper into that. So we're super excited. We will launch the date pretty soon. But in the meantime, you guys can definitely get on the email list and we will be kind of communicating with you that way. But in the meantime, should we drop some teasers of like what they can expect?
Yeah.
So here's a teacher and teaser on what they can expect is I'm going to be teaching proven principles that have helped people become multimillionaires.
There you go. Bam.
Well, there you go. I'm going to be teaching and talking about why you need more than one lane of income and the value of having passive income in your life and how to go after that with not necessarily having any capital to invest. How do you get started with that?
That's good. Yes.
Because I really think, I mean, as much as I hate to say it, but honestly, I love to say it, money makes the world go round.
Yep.
And the more financial security we have, the more choices we can make with our life.
Yeah. Zig Ziglar says, you don't need money, but it rates right up there with oxygen.
Yeah, it does. It does.
And I'll be sharing the depths of what it truly means to build a personal brand on and offline and why it's important. So I'm super excited to continue the conversation. And thank you, Kirsten, for giving us this space.
Good us.
Guys, isn't it amazing? Yeah, I'm all over aesthetics. Like, this is the vibe. In the meantime, thank you guys for tuning in.
I don't know which camera. Look at all the cameras.
Thanks for watching the Authentic Media Podcast YouTube. At Authentic Media Company, our mission is to help you develop an authentic brand so you can make the impact that you are called to make. If you got anything from today's episode, make sure you drop a comment down below. I'm interested to see what your takeaways are. And if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel so you can be the first to know when we drop our newest episode. In the meantime, have a great day.